and yet the Nikolai Valuev deal was done pretty quickly. So we can get a clearer idea now of what's in store for David from the man I was talking about a short while ago, Adam Booth, who joins us on the line now. Good evening, Adam.
Hello, Mick. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us, mate. Now, it's John Ruiz next. Just remind us now of the detail, the politics as to why it's got to be the American John Ruiz, the former world champion, next.
John Ruiz was the official challenger for Valuev by the WBA. But Valuev and Southern Events wanted to take the fight with David. I think for commercial reasons, because they thought that it would sort of bolster Valuev's profile a little bit, because David had managed to garner some profile during the Klitschko negotiations and the Vladimir fallout, etc. And so a deal was struck with Ruiz to step aside to allow David to challenge Valuev with a promise, a contractual promise, that he would be next in line and get a crack at the winner.
OK, and I've been talking about this dinner that we were all at last weekend, and David still had a cast on his hand. So the question is, when will he be ready to punch again, whether it's a bag or an opponent in sparring? And so when and where is the fight likely to take place?
He'll start punching in January, and the fight will take place anything between the end of March, or should I say the start of April and the end of May. And we're just going through the details of when that's going to be.
And Adam, are we still talking about Britain? Are we still talking hopefully about the O2 London?
We're talking about England, definitely, and the O2 is one of the venues that we're looking at, but definitely in the UK.
Okay, Adam, I'd like to get this clear now with regard to the Klitschkos. Let's cut straight to the chase. Let's forget all of the joke fights and the Hopkins, which is plenty of money, and Ruiz, which is a fantastic homecoming. Have you spoken to anybody who is part of the K2, the two Klitschkos, Bernd Bonter, Vladimir or Vitali, since that night in Nuremberg?
No, haven't seen, heard or spoken to anyone.
So, Mike, I don't know about you, but that's a very short and quick answer to me.
Yes, it is. But I mean, you're not in the same position that you were in on November the 6th, Adam, are you? You know, it's very different now, your position of bargaining and negotiations.
Well, it was when we were doing the Vitali negotiations. You know, when we first negotiated for the Vladimir fight, they were arguing for the whole time to try and sort of put us in a corner and get us negotiating down was nobody knows who David Haye is. And we sort of had to start from being backed up in the corner in negotiations.
Adam, we're just going to have to leave you for a second. We're going to come back to you on the negotiations because with really bad timing, there's for that, Adam. Back to the negotiations.
That's okay. He should have interrupted. He missed the penalty.
I know. Yeah. It was pointless in the end, but anyhow, there we go. Come on.
So they had us in a corner that they felt, and the whole argument was nobody knows who David Haye is. And obviously, then we signed the fight for Vladimir. All of a sudden it became the biggest fight of Vladimir's career. They sold 50 whatever thousand tickets for the fight, and it was clear people did know who David Haye was. When David was injured and then Vladimir chose to fight somebody else, Chagayev, we then sat down and tried to negotiate again in good faith, bearing in mind that, you know, we had much more evidence to support. We knew what David's value was, and they just tried to treat us exactly the same way. And it went on for weeks on end, you know, the level of disrespect and arrogance. It just went on and on and on, until eventually I just sat down one night and I thought, I've had enough of this. Let me see if this other option is an option. And within 3 days it was.
Adam, I think the landscape's changed this week because Roy Jones has been beaten, battered inside a round, and he was scheduled to face Bernard Hopkins in a rematch in March. It was already penciled in for March the 13th. So Bernard Hopkins now, having won himself last night, has really nowhere to go, or certainly not as many options. Hopkins against David Haye. You know, I actually like the idea of that.
I'm not sure, in all honesty. You know, like I said, we've got John Ruiz, and mustn't forget that John Ruiz has only lost once by stoppage, and that was to David Tua, who's probably one of the hardest punching heavyweights of the sort of modern era. You know, we mustn't disregard John Ruiz and his ability to make a fight of it. You know, but Bernard Hopkins wants David to make a voluntary defence against him because he wants a big swan song at the end of his career. But you know, I guess I'll wait until I get a call from Richard Schaefer about that.
Yeah, the weights actually add up because Hopkins is favourably comparable to Jones and Ruiz is favourably comparable to Haye weight-wise from when they fought back in March. Now, this is the interesting thing, Adam, and this would, I think, really help, and it would really stir things up if Kevin Johnson, who's got a bigger mouth than David, if he were to hit Vitali on the chin or on the knee, because he's more vulnerable around the knees. If he were to hit him on the chin or around the knees or around the shoulders, because, you know, he's fallen apart in a couple of weeks' time, that would be good, because that would give you an American, a proper bona fide American, and not a freak American. That would be good, wouldn't it?
It would be. I mean, listen, the Americans are desperate to have one of their own as a genuine challenger. Don't forget, you've got Eddie Chambers fighting Vladimir as well.
He's boring, Eddie. He's lovely guy. He's boring.
I think, well, you know, listen, I think I've looked at Kevin Johnson, and one thing he has, he's got a pesky jab, and he seems to have a very sturdy chin. But I think the problem for him is with Vladimir, it doesn't matter how good your chin is. It all depends on how good your defence is. And the evidence I've seen from Kevin Johnson, I'm not sure his defence is good enough to make him get through the problems with Italy.
I was dreaming, Adam. I was dreaming.
Oh, you do well.
Adam, now that David is a heavyweight champion of the world, does that make your job more difficult?
Well, I think I haven't had to pay for a drink.
But as his profile rises in the UK...
No, yeah, I mean, it's gone through the roof. You know, you sort of predict, you know, cruiserweight champion, then, you know, the Vladimir situation. If you beat Valuev, and then the profile's going to go up. But it's gone up exponentially since we predicted it. And we're, you know, all we're doing at the moment is just taking stock, enjoying the success, and then we'll get back down. The Ruiz fight is already done. Ruiz is signed. It's just a question of a venue. And so a lot of my work is already done in the sense of management. It's literally just getting back to what I love, and that's being in the gym and doing the training. Just
from a boxing fan's point of view, one of the beauties, along with so many other things about the fight, was that you could actually sit down at home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and watch it and not have to wait till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. But the reason you often have to wait till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning is because of how important the United States market is to you, yeah?
Yeah, but you know, and I said this, and David and I had this chat a long time ago, that we think that there's a big enough value in Europe. You know, you have European fighters that are heavyweight champions of the world, and David as, you know, the brash, charismatic English challenger who's now gone on to become the heavyweight champion. And the interest in Europe is very strong. So, you know, for David to go to America, which we don't see in the foreseeable future, you know, whatever is put on the table has got to be quite sizable to take us away from the European time zones.
Adam, thank you very much for joining us this evening. That's Adam Booth, David Haye's manager and trainer.